students that are from around the world that are studying in the U.S. And so that's the field that I work in, international students, particularly in Philadelphia. Our mission with Bridges is to turn lost international students, scholars, and faculty into Christ-centered multipliers, to see them sent out among the world to share Jesus and to multiply their lives and their faith into others. I serve on a team of 6, and you could see it's a little small, but you'll see our team there in front of the famous Philadelphia Love statue. And we are tasked with reaching international students in Philadelphia. Now, you may not know this, but there are over a dozen college campuses and universities just in the city proper. And many of our students come from a lot of those universities, not all of them yet, but more than a few. We're primarily working at University of Pennsylvania, Temple, and Drexel. But as you'll see, we have students that come to our events from probably about 6 or 7 other universities. Many of our events are citywide events, and so it's not uncommon for a student to hear about us from someone and ask if they can join our events. So we pull from a wide net. I mentioned our mission earlier, but I often get asked the question by people, so what does daily life look for you? What does it look like? What are you doing most days? And that can be a hard question to answer because my schedule can change depending upon what is going on from week to week or who is available. But for the most part, I'm doing one of these 4 things at any given time. These are the 4 focuses that Bridges has. So creating social connections, giving opportunities for service, building student leadership, and then engaging and creating spiritual conversations that lead to discussing Jesus and the gospel. So I wanted to share a little bit with you about some of the things that we're doing in each of those 4 categories. So social connections. As you can imagine, moving to another country, leaving your home and starting a whole new life for yourself at the university level can be really lonely and intimidating and overwhelming. Pastor Roth didn't mention that when he met me some years ago, I was actually headed to do full-time work overseas in the Middle East. And so I lived over in the Middle East for 5 or 6 years. And let me tell you, learning how to build a life for yourself in a new country, oftentimes in a new language, in a language that's not your primary language, it's incredibly stressful. And that's not adding on top of it the need for community and fellowship. And America, we tend to live in a culture that is more introverted than extroverted. So it can be a challenge for people to meet new friends. So that's one of the things we love to do is build social connections and provide places that international students can interact with each other, but also where they can meet Americans and people from the community. So what you see here is actually something that's going to happen in about 2 weeks. This is a picture from last year, but this was our welcome dinner. So every September, we throw a huge welcome dinner for new international students. And then every Friday after that, we have what we like to call Friday Night Connection. It's a local, usually in a local, it has been in a house, in a home, but we've outgrown it. We're too big for the home now with the students. So we're meeting in a fellowship hall in a church really close to the University of Pennsylvania campus. And we have a home-cooked meal for them every week. And then after we've eaten together, maybe played a few games, we have a discussion on some topic from the Bible. And we change the topic every semester. So last year, we discussed leadership and we discussed rest, something very important, especially for our Ivy League friends at University of Pennsylvania. And we take a look at what the Bible has to say, wisdom from the Bible of that. Again, ultimately hoping to point towards the gospel. But the social things that we do, and you'll see more of these later, are important as they help people feel a little less alone and like they are seen and welcomed. And then we also like to have service opportunities. So as you can imagine, again, moving to a new country, there's a lot of different needs that you have. And so we look for opportunities to serve the needs of international students. On the left there, you'll see a picture of an event we did a year or two ago, a furniture giveaway. So we partnered with some local churches, and we collected a whole bunch of good use and good stead furniture to give away. Some people even donated new things. And then we offered to international students to come, and they could take away pretty much whatever they could carry and one large piece of furniture. So you'll see these students got really smart, and they brought a laundry cart to fill with their things. But that was one way that we could bless students, and we keep an eye out for opportunities like that where we can kind of help meet some physical needs of students, or even sometimes even professional needs as they're working on starting their careers. But we also like to give people, everybody needs an opportunity not only just to receive, but to give, right? And so we also provide events where the international students themselves can give back to the community. We partner in Philadelphia with a crisis pregnancy center, and about twice a year we set a day to go help do some cleaning at their facility so that they don't have to, gives them a little bit of not only keeping their facility nice, but also a little bit of even financial help because they don't have to hire anyone. And our students have loved doing that, have loved participating and being a help in that. The picture on the right is a trip that we took, again, another place we like to visit at least once a year, if not twice, to the Unto warehouse in Lancaster, where they assemble refugee aid to go all across the world. And again, not only do our students love being able to help, and especially help send these things around the world, some of them to their own areas of the world, but they also just love Lancaster. Any chance they could get to go to Lancaster in the country and see the Amish, they absolutely love. Student leadership. So again, in that vein of wanting to give opportunities to give, not just receive, we look for opportunities to help students have ownership over blessing other people. This is one of my favorite events that we do every year. We do what I would like to call a series of celebrate parties. So every year we pick a night and we take a part of the world and we just theme a party after that part of the world. So this was our Celebrate India night. And many students enjoy helping us plan that, helping plan ambiance and food and activities that remind them of home, but also give students that are not from that part of the world a taste of their home. We currently are doing 3 of those parties based on the mixture of students that we have coming. We have a Celebrate India party. We do in the January, we do a Lunar New Year party because Lunar New Year is a huge holiday in most Asian countries like China and Japan, Taiwan. And then we did our first ever Celebrate Africa party last year because we've had an influx of African students become involved with us. And so we desperately needed our African students to help us with that last year. We had no clue, but they stepped up and helped us plan a wonderful event that everyone enjoyed. But of course, we don't want to just give opportunities for leadership in practical things, even though that's good and a blessing to many people. We also want to be a source of creating spiritual leadership and ownership as well. And so we work with several believing students that are on campuses, and we hope to disciple them, not only to help them grow in their faith, but also to help them learn how to share their faith and multiply their faith in other people. 2 years ago, I met a student named Joy. And Joy came from an Asian country, and she had become a believer in that country too, which is frankly quite rare. And as I got to know Joy, she got involved in some of our Bible studies, and about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we were having coffee, and she was about to graduate. She had about a year before graduation, and she said, "Becky, you know, I've been thinking, She goes, my plan is to return to my home country and get a job professionally in my home country. And she said, but I realized something. She said, I realized that wherever I work, most likely all my coworkers will not know Jesus. They won't be believers. I'll be working in an environment probably where I'm the only Christian. And she goes, I don't know how to talk about my faith, and I want to. And she goes, that's my goal for this year, is I'd like to learn how to talk about Jesus to others. And so it was exciting. We're like, well, we would be more than happy to help you with that. And it was a fun and exciting adventure to go with her on. And so you'll see in the black mask, that's Joy standing next to me. That was us at our orientation events. So next week, or 2 weeks, we'll be on a lot of different campuses, kind of trying to meet as many international students as possible. One of the things we use is that map, which says, where are you from on it? And we have students put a sticker on, so that helps us kind of find the international students on the campus. The young woman in green standing next to Joy was someone that we met a year ago who is a new student. She was so excited that there was a group just for international students on campus that she immediately said, what can I do to help? Tell me what you're doing. I'll be there. And so we're like, well, really, just this week we're out meeting new students. You know, there isn't any events. We're just meeting. And she goes, well, I'll come. I'll help. I'll be there. So she did. And while we were meeting people, Joy and I casually mentioned that we had been a part of a Bible study together, that we were studying the Bible together. Sherry also comes from a country where there are very few Christians. And so she had moved into an apartment that was right down the street from a church. And she'd been curious about it. It's not something she'd been exposed to in her home country. So when she heard we were in a Bible study, she went, oh, that's so funny you mentioned that. I've been really, really curious. And I asked her, well, where are you in your spiritual journey? And she goes, well, I haven't really thought about my spiritual journey. And she goes, but maybe that is something I should think about. And I said, well, Joy and I would love to get together for coffee with you, and we have this small booklet that talks about the main message of the Bible, the gospel. And we would love, if that would be helpful to you, we would love to share that with you and get your thoughts on that. She went, oh, really? Yes, I would love to meet. So a week later, we're at a cafe, just sitting the three of us, and I had the joy of watching Joy share the gospel for the first time in her life with a student. And just a real privilege. And as she was able to go through and talk with Sherry and share her testimony with her, it was really neat. Sherry didn't make a decision for Christ then, but she was able to verbalize that it was the first time that she had ever heard the gospel, that it was completely new to her. And so what a privilege to be able to witness two firsts. Not only the first of Sherry hearing the gospel for the first time, but the first of watching Joy, the first conversation of what I think will be many, watching Joy share her faith as well. So I wanted to share with you some prayer points for me, things that you can be praying for me, especially as we start to meet and engage new students in August. This is a picture of my family. So I am not married, but that does not mean I don't have family. So I like to show a picture of my family. You can see my parents on the couch, my brother, and my sister-in-law. A fun fact about me, my parents also work for Campus Crusade for Christ and have since I was born. They're 40 years plus in ministry. My brother, who is standing next to me, is also on staff with Campus Crusade for Christ. He works down in Orlando and helps coach our new staff. And then his wife, Heather, is involved part-time in a ministry with Crew to attorneys, as she herself is a full-time attorney in Florida. I share this with you because one of the things that you can be praying for me right now is that this past May, after a 9-year battle with cancer, a 9-year journey with cancer, my father went home to be with the Lord. And that has been a defining mark of our summer and our lives. My mother, my brother, my sister-in-law, and I That's one thing that you can, oops, I hit the wrong button. Okay. That's one thing that you can pray for me is I, again, begin a pretty busy season in ministry, that the Lord would meet me in my grief. And I can't help but notice the coincidence, which I don't think is a coincidence, that we're talking about the feeding of the thousands this morning, but that as the Lord meets my needs, that he would also give me extra to meet the needs of the students that I'm meeting as well, that he would provide for both. You can also pray for me over this past year. So my ministry is funded by churches that give monthly and annually to my budget, but also a lot of different individuals that also give to my ministry as well. I've had, because of financial reasons, I've had several different partners drop off my team, and so I'm seeking some new partners as well. So you could pray that God would provide 4 or 5 new partners for my ministry, individuals, families, or churches. If you're interested in that, my contact information is in the bulletin. Feel free to contact me about that. If you're interested in getting also my prayer letters, I know that most of the time those are in the bulletin too, but if you would like to be on my prayer letter list, you can contact me for that too. But yes, pray for me in that the Lord would continue to meet my needs so that I can serve joyfully and abundantly the needs of the students around me. Specifically, you can pray for gospel opportunities. One of my favorite verses Paul prayed when he was in prison was pray that a door might open for the gospel. And that's such a great picture of what we're asking God to do, that doors would open to the gospel with students from around the world, from the nations who come to Philadelphia. Many of them, like Sherry, who've never had the opportunity to hear the gospel in their home country. And then pray for more student leaders like Joy, who recognize what God has done in their life and have an earnest desire to impart that to other people, whether that means sharing the gospel with someone, a classmate or a family member who doesn't know Jesus, or multiplying their life into the lives of other believers and encouraging them to grow in their faith as well. I can't thank you all enough for the privilege of being sent by you and for your prayers as well. I know many times you have interceded for us in ways that God has answered and in miraculous ways as well. So it's a pleasure to get to be with you and to worship with you this morning. Thank you very much.